Welcome to Two Crows Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Holmes. Just so you know, for your visual pleasure and your mind's eye, I am dressed as Old Greg right now, so enjoy that visual, or go to my TikTok and look at it. Tyler Holmes 666, if you must know. Maybe I'll post a picture on my Instagram. Two Crows. The number 2 Crows Podcast on Instagram. So I spent the weekend in the hospital. That was fun. They keep calling me with more things wrong, but while I was in there, I had a slight concussion, or they said mild concussion, bleeding in my esophagus and stomach, as well as esophagitis. That's fun. An ulcer that had ruptured near my stomach very recently, they think that same day, as well as a kidney infection that was so severe they could see it on the CAT scan. So that's fun. It's all very fun. I'm on medication now for the kidney infection, and they moved my GI doctor appointment up to the 7th instead of the 12th of September. Did you hear the wonderful news? In LA, they found a new millipede. It has 486 legs, and it was just living in Los Angeles, and no one knew about it. It's blind and glassy. It's really cool looking if you want to look that up. It was discovered between a Starbucks and an Oakley sunglasses store, just a little bit below the earth. They named it the Ilacme SoCal. We're out there looking in space, and we have things on our own planet that we don't even know about yet. In other news, there is an outlaw that the wildlife officials in Santa Cruz have been trying to apprehend, a little otter. He's on the run from local and federal authorities, wanted for aggressively confronting locals and stealing surfboards at a popular beach. But its outlaw status has turned the slippery sea otter into an international icon with growing support to leave her in the wild. The 5-year-old otter, known officially as Otter 841, has been deemed a public safety risk by state and federal wildlife officials because of her unusually aggressive behavior along the Santa Cruz coast. As a result, wildlife officials and Monterey Bay aquarium staff are attempting to capture and rehome the otter to an aquarium or zoo, according to a joint news release. But support for a live and let live approach is growing with each unsuccessful attempt. I say, let her live and let live. If she wants to surf, let her surf. People are going into her habitat to have some fun. Let her have some fun with them. This otter's become a viral sensation. Let me know what you think about her and if she should stay free or be zooed up. So I was doing some research on cryptids today and wanted to know which one was in the state I'm currently in, which is Minnesota. And it's the Minnesota Dogman, and I think I've met a few of them on dates here. Heck, I think I see them in the local pages that I'm on, and they definitely have responded to a lot of my comments. But here's a little bit of the story. In one of the early months of 2009, a man reported seeing a dogman near Fergus Falls in Otter Tail County. Here is how he has described the encounter. I'll start off by saying that I have never believed in any of these sorts of creatures, but I saw something in early 2009 that really disturbed me and is making me change my mind. I was not under the influence of any drugs, and I have better than average eyesight, and the lighting was nearly sunset, but I was still able to see clearly. So I'll get this underway and explain my story, and maybe someone can shed some light on this for me. I live in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is in the west central Minnesota, about an hour drive from Fargo, North Dakota. My mother-in-law lives out in the country, about 3 or 4 miles out of Fergus Falls, and I was staying there while my wife and her mother went shopping in town. They called me and asked if I wanted to go to a 7 p.m. movie, so I left the house at about 6:30 p.m. or 6:45 p.m. to meet them at the theater. About 2 miles from their house, on a country road known as Wendell Road along the Mistinka River, I saw 3 white-tailed deer. 2 of the deer were rather small, probably just yearlings, and a larger doe, who I assumed was their mother. Me, being an avid hunter, lover of wildlife, and future wildlife biologist, stopped to look at the deer. I should also mention that I hunt in the area and have spent my whole life in Fergus Falls area. The deer were following a small creek bed, which in fact is the Mistinka River, so there were hardly any trees, except for one. Maybe I didn't see it there because of the tree, but I just noticed something crouching behind the tree on my side of the road, looking at the deer, and to my disbelief, hunting them. It just sat there, looking at the deer, taking no notice of me, even though I was in the truck, no more than 40 yards away, with a clear view, with nothing obstructing my view of it. It had one hand on the tree that it was bracing itself with. What struck me as shocking was the fact that it seemed to be a 2-legged creature, and not a 4-legged one. Its hands appeared to have opposable thumbs, and were rather slender and long, very unlike a wolf. The creature looked as though it stood upright. It would be over 7 feet tall, with a protruding muzzle, broad shoulders, a slender waist, thick, muscular thighs, and being as there was snow on the ground, I couldn't see the feet. He was deep, dark brown in color throughout his body. After several seconds of looking at the creature in shock, the deer ran off. Then something amazing happened. It looked right at me, as though blaming me for losing his meal. He just sat there, looking at me and blinking, but not moving. This scared the crap out of me, so I hit the gas pedal and drove off. It was very dark after the movies, so I didn't much feel like trudging through the 3.5 feet of snow with the possibility of a monster lurking in the area who is currently looking for a meal that I scared off. So at about 10 a.m. I went back there and walked down to the tree. Under the tree there was no snow, so there were no tracks that I could see, but leading up to the tree there were 3 tracks, leading in from my grandmother-in-law's field, which was dark black dirt, and if you know what Minnesota fields look like in the late winter, early spring, you can't make anything out of the dirt. The tracks I did find were only about 6 to 7 inches in length, but were clearly canine prints, with the exception of 4 toe-looking marks in the snow. His story ends there, but he's not the only one. We have someone else, from another unnamed man. He saw the creature in early September in the year 1999 on an Air Force base in St. Louis County. He said that it looked like a dog man. Here is the email he sent to the Dog Man Encounters site. First off, I'd like to keep my name confidential, just for the fact that this happened on an Air Force base and I don't know who reads this stuff. This happened sometime in September of 1999. I forget the exact date. It was early in the month, though. It was between 2 and 3 a.m. I was a security forces airman, working 3rd shift on a base patrol. Now, mind you, this is an Air National Guard base that I worked at full time. It's on the north side of Duluth, Minnesota, next to the International Airport. North to northeast is nothing but large wooded areas. 3rd shift on the base was pretty boring, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and as full-timers worked a skeleton crew. Usually only 5 or 6 of us on 3rd shift. I was in the patrol truck doing my usual rounds, checking doors and fence lines. Late at night on the north side of the base was usually creepy enough when patrolling by yourself. Anyways, I was on this road driving towards our baseball field when my headlights caught a pair of eyes reflecting back at me. They were almost eye level with me, and I was sitting in an F-150. Around this time, a few of the guys had been seeing this huge buck around the property, like a 16-pointer or something around that size. I was about 80 yards or so when I saw these eyes reflecting back at me. So I'm thinking it was a big deer. I gotta see this thing. So I hit the gas and started speeding towards the field. This is where it all happened so fast. It's almost hard to explain. There was a little slope behind the baseball field. It sloped down, probably about 12 or 15 feet, into a brush line. The brush went about 30 feet, then turned into a thick tree line. The brush was probably armpit height and pretty tough to traverse through. Being so thick, as I turned into the baseball field and turned the truck towards the thing, I just caught the rear end of the thing leaping down the slope below the line of sight of my headlights. The thing was no more than about 20 feet ahead of me when it leaped. All I got a look at was the back end of the thing, and it was big. The best I can do to describe it is to say that it was wolf or dog-like in nature. It had a long tail, longer than 2 feet. The hind legs looked exactly like those of a dog. Same with the back paws, but the paws were huge. They were bigger than my hand, that's for sure. The hair, or fur, was wavy yet matted and thick. The color was blondish or very light brown. I didn't notice any gray in it, but this all happened within 2 or 3 seconds. I sat in my patrol truck for a couple of seconds, confused and thinking, I know what I saw, but it couldn't have been what I saw. So I hopped out with my flashlight, my M16 rifle, and walked to the edge of the slope. All I heard was the thing running through the woods in front of me, heading in a northwest direction, and this thing sounded like a moose charging through the trees. It made a lot of noise. That's when I started to get really scared, thinking if this is some sort of wolf or whatever, it could be. My M16 isn't going to do a thing to this animal. So I jumped back in my patrol truck as fast as I could and headed back to the SF headquarters. I never told any of the other members about this, for fear of ridicule or being called crazy. There is no way I misidentified this thing. I am a trained observer, an avid hunter, and have worked with animal rehabilitation with the Minnesota DNR. I know my animals and the North Woods extremely well. I saw exactly what I saw, and that was the back end of a large wolf or dog thing that basically had its eyes level with mine while I was in a patrol truck. The back end was definitely much larger than any of the largest deer or black bear I have seen. The points I remember the clearest were the tail, the back paws, as well as the texture and color of the fur. This is my story. I have never told it to anyone for fear of ridicule. I swear it to be the truth. I can tell you for myself that I have seen some crazy things up in those woods up there that I can't explain, and I don't know what kind of large animals they were. But I only got glimpses, and it wasn't enough to tell you it was a wolf or a giant deer or something altogether different. But I've seen some insane animals up there. Hey, maybe it is something new, something we've never discovered. I have a third, shorter story of someone else who's seen the same beast. This third story is from another unnamed man. It was reported in the city of Long Prairie in the center of Todd County. This is how the encounter went. I was visiting my grandmother up in Long Prairie, Minnesota. I was spending a week with her mostly just to help her with whatever she needed help with. It was summer, and early one morning, before the sun even was up, I went outside to tend to the garden and maybe even get some squirrels for some squirrel dumplings for dinner. So I slung my semi-automatic assault rifle over my shoulder and headed out. I had just gotten maybe 20 squirrels. My grandmother's place has a lot of squirrels. When all of a sudden I picked up my last squirrel and then I saw something. Just on the edge of the woods behind my grandmother's property, I saw some humanoid dog thing. It never attacked me. It just sat there, so I fired a couple shots at the creature. It yelped and ran off into the woods. Then I went into the house and proceeded to call the local police department. They never found proof of what I saw other than a few paw prints, so they claimed I just shot at a wolf. My grandmother was worried and confused by the events taking place, so at dinner she sat me down and asked me about what I saw. I told her the whole story. Strangely enough, she seemed to believe me. I showed her where I saw the thing and where I was when it happened. I never saw it again, but I've otherwise gotten over the whole ordeal. I don't so much agree with this last one shooting at the wolf. It wasn't doing anything, and he said it wasn't even posturing at him like it was going to, so I guess it's one of those situations which, unless you were in it and right there when it happened, that you don't know what you would do. I've been around wolves and I've never felt the need to shoot at them. They've scared away what we were hunting, but I've never had to deal with wanting to shoot one. Especially with a gun made for smaller rodents like squirrels, and you know it's just gonna piss it off. I'm pretty sure that gun is more likely to make it run after you than it is for it to run away from you. But that's just from a target shooter who's gone hunting with people. No, I have never shot anything. I don't want to kill an animal if I don't have to. But I have been there while people have been hunting for food. Yes, I'm probably hypocritical in that, and the fact that I go fishing in the ocean and catch fish and eat sushi and steak, but hey, I don't feel good shooting an animal. That's just me. What is the cryptid in your area? I'd love to read about them, research them, see what stories go on in those areas, because it fascinates me that so many people in smaller regions see the same thing, and yet we pretend it doesn't really exist. Yet discover new creatures all the time. Well, I had something exciting happen though. So I've had multiple people email me in some stories, and a lot of them are audio, and I'm trying to figure out if they want them audio on here or if they want me to tell their stories and write them out as they said them, because I know not everyone's a writer. So I want to see if they want their voices on here or not. So I'm trying to figure that out, because almost all of the ones I've gotten in are them recording their voice and sending it to me. But I know not everyone wants their voice heard by however many people listen to this. Now, I'm going to do something I normally do at the beginning, but it's not letting me add it in to the beginning, which it normally does. And I usually record it separately and just put it in as a thingamabob. But I think I already announced this person, but I want to make sure that I do. So I want to give a big thanks to Aaron Fritz, because they have helped me so much on TikTok and just encouraging me and loving on me, and they're a Murder Crow. They are in the Murder Crow tier, and I just want to thank them so much. And if it is a second shout out, it's a second shout out, and I'm okay with that. Love you. On to other business. I got my merch mug in, and I absolutely love it. I posted it on the page, I believe, in a story, so I will post an actual picture of it because it's so cute, and I cannot wait for my shirt to come in. It's supposed to be here today by 9 p.m. and it is 8:44 p.m., so we'll see if it arrives today. I'm going to modify it a bit because I like doing that to my clothing, but I'm excited. I got a yellow one. I got a picture. Someone else got their mug and love it. I made them the 15-ounce mugs because, duh, coffee. And the options were 8, 10, 12, and 15. So go big or go home. And it was the same price, so get a big mug. And my top 2-tier Patreons get a code to get the mugs or all the merch for 10% off. So join that Patreon tiers and I will add in those codes for you. I'm going to be adding another tier to the Patreon that is a little higher and includes some merch. So that's exciting. So watch out for that. I have not figured out a name yet because we already have full-fledged accomplices. So what's above that? If you have a suggestion, put it below. All right, I'm going to leave you at it for today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week and forever. All right, love you guys. Crow out.